I didn't stop and think, okay, if I say I want kids, like I knew when I was younger, I wanted to have 2 to 4 kids. I wanted to be married. I wanted to be, me and my husband, it's me and him against the world, but I never really stopped to think about what does that really mean? If I say I want 4 kids and a husband, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I want to make Believe in Your Greatness little symbol to go on the back of this headband I have on. My husband and I have a brand called BIYG, Believe in Your Greatness. And again, we're building this plane while we're flying this. So we're revamping the store. The website is shopbiyg.com. It will also be biyg.io. So you can go there, but you can't buy anything yet. Anyway, I like to come up with what to create just kind of based off of the vibe. So I love these headbands, so I'm gonna try and put one on here. So I figured this would be a great time for me to talk about my journey, because a big part of me representing myself and making it clear of who I am and what I want to share and why I believe is wrapped up in my journey thus far. And I won't bore you with going through my life journey, but I do think that we have stages that we go through. And considering the fact that my passion is other women who are similar to me, stay-at-home moms, wives, even more specifically, who may have husbands that travel, mother of multiple younger kids. All of those are things that I can speak to. And I thought about that and I was like, well, maybe you need to go a little bit deeper than that, because I believe that there were things that I experienced. All of these are things that I am, but I did not embrace, or I had kind of a jacked up idea about it. And I can honestly say that over time, me not being able to really assume all of my roles and enjoy them, well, you don't enjoy it all the time, but you know what I mean? Like, enjoy the journey of being in those roles. It played a big part in my relationship, in my marriage. It had great impact, which my husband and I, that could be a conversation that we talk about with our Real Marriage Talk stuff in greater detail. But I have wanted to speak and share for a while, and I have, but little did I know I was still going through very critical parts of my journey as it related to those roles, which made it difficult to be able to really share, if that makes sense. So what I did was, excuse me, I got these Invisaligns in, so I'm trying to talk right. So what I did was, over the past, I'd say, how old is LJ? LJ is 8. He's about to turn 9. 3, 4 maybe. Over the past 5 years, I have gone through a lot of different phases in my journey in the roles that I named. And so what I started to do was document what stage of my journey I was in. And so far I'm in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm in the 10th stage of what I've been documenting. Here we go. So this is difficult. Oh gosh, it's like difficult to sit and talk about your story without anybody asking you anything. Maybe I can't make this at the same time. That might be too distracting. Okay, so we're gonna scratch that idea because I can't. I don't want to be distracted. I feel like that's the idea was good to try and do it at the same time, or so I thought, but it's not good. And that's one of the things that I'm working on is when the way that you think something should happen isn't happening that way. You have to assess it, and you might have to change some of your vision of it. Sometimes there's non-negotiables, but in this case, this is a negotiable because this is being distracting. So let's get this put up. Let me focus on you guys because I really want to share this. So building a plane while it's flying. Yes. Okay. Okay. Here we go. So I'm the product of a very vocal father and a very supportive mother who were married. And my mom had the role of, it was clear that her family came first. Her kids came first. Her husband came first. My mom worked a job. She didn't really have like this, this big career, but she worked the same job, came home, tended to us, tended to my dad, tended to the house. So I definitely had the actual, like the visual example of, I guess what some would say is more of a traditional wife and mom. Not completely in that she didn't stay home forever. She stayed home with me till she was 3, so I was 3. And my dad was, in terms of discipline, in terms of the conversations and the lessons and all of that, they came from my father. And my dad is I guess a type A type of a person. He's pretty traditional in his views about like men and women and roles. However, considering the fact that he raised 3 daughters, he and my mom raised 3 girls, I don't recall him ever giving me the conversation about what a man would expect from me. He gave us the conversations about what we should be able to go out and do. We should be able to get a great education so you can go and get a great job and you can, have the future that you want to have. And his big thing to us was, when you grow up, you'll be able to, you can make your own rules in your house. He hated us chewing gum. So that was the biggest things. Like, when you grow up and get a good education, get a good job, then you'll be able to have your own house and chew your own gum. And that was cool because it forced my sisters and I to have certain things that were an absolute must. We had to learn how to drive a stick. We had to know how to swim. We had to be able to take care of ourselves. And we got praise surrounding things that showed that we were becoming more and more independent. College was, it was like 13th grade. You graduate from high school, you go to college, you do this whole thing. And it wasn't until, so I'm giving you that backstory because even though I had the visual of what some of the mom roles would be and all of that, my dad's the conversations, I think, overrode some of what I saw with my mom. I didn't stop and think, okay, if I say I want kids, like I knew when I was younger, I wanted to have 2 to 4 kids. I wanted to be married. I want to be, me and my husband, it's me and him against the world. But I never really stopped to think about, what does that really mean? If I say I want 4 kids and a husband, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? I kind of just went on my journey and went to college, and I didn't really think about the other stuff until later on. I guess you kind of always say, well, I'll figure that out later. I'll figure that out later. At least I did. So I'm giving you the background because when I first met my husband, I'm trying not to make this long. When I first met my husband, we both were working. You know, he had his business. I met him at one of his clients was where I worked. And so even then I was still operating in two different realities. One reality was I could pursue this career path, or, you know, figure out my career path, because I worked at a lot of different industries, and I could still find somebody and eventually be a mom, and at some point in time the two will come together and it'll just all work out and everything will, you know, I could do everything I want to do and blah blah blah. Well, that's not how it happened. Long story short, I ended up becoming a stay-at-home mom. It at one point in time just did not make sense for me to go and look for a job, because the job I was at, we parted ways. And at that time, my husband got an opportunity to go on tour with CeeLo Green and Lionel Richie, and that called for him to be gone like a lot. The two kids at the time were extremely young, and it just didn't make sense to go try to find a job and then daycare when I could just stay home, and the money he was making was actually really good. So that was the start of how I became a stay-at-home mom. It wasn't a planned thing, and it certainly wasn't something that I thought was going to last forever. And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, what do I do? What do I do in this role? So for a long time, I used the notion of me being a stay-at-home mom more so as time to figure out how to not be one anymore, as opposed to truly leaning into it and embracing it. I had my pockets of time when I would kind of embrace it, but all in all, it would always come back to me wanting to figure out what to do with my life. Like, I'm more than a mom. I'm more than a wife. That was my whole thing, is I'm more than that. And I am, but it was just so pressing. Like, I'm more than this. There's got to be more reason, purpose to my life, all of that. So at that point, though, it started to jack me up with how I was viewing myself, how I was viewing my husband, and even the outside world. I didn't really feel like a lot of where I was normally interacting, whether it family, friends, just, I didn't completely feel like I found people who got what I was like, where I was in my life, my role. I didn't feel like I knew where to go to get stronger in my role. In fact, I graduated from Hampton University, and one of the things that they have is they have this acknowledgement, if you will, of what they call the 40 under 40. And you get nominated by other classmates and stuff like that to be honored, I guess, for your like what you've done with your life post graduation. And a lot of it was based off of, I'm sure, based off of what I saw, was based off of people's accomplishments and what they did career-wise. Not to say that people didn't have stuff with community and things like that, but all in all, in my opinion, it was based a lot off of traditional success. And whenever I would see it, it would kind of like jab me, because I'm like, damn, I'm not on a career path anymore. Like, I'm not on a career path anymore. So what does that mean for me? And not that I had to be acknowledged with them But it did make me look at, dag, you know, man or woman, it seems like the value is based off of what you do with your career. And I'm like, so then, like, what happens to me now? Like, that left me really, really stuck, especially since the way I was raised was to focus on my success. And my parents, my dad especially, in my opinion, equated success with career, not, you know, having a family, not being a mom, a wife. It was with having this career. So here's the truth of the truth of the truth. My husband and I, we ended up moving from New Jersey down to North Carolina. And when we moved, the time was really good. Financially, it was really good. The two kids we had at the time were very small. And we were moving into a space that was definitely smaller than we were accustomed to. In fact, it was his parents. His parents had a rental. So we moved into the house, his parents' rental property, took that over. And, you know, it was like, okay, cool. We can like save money. We can pay off some of our debt. This will be a great reset. And then the gig that Joe was on came to an end, and it was a really well-paying gig. And honestly, we did not make the best decisions while in that time to capitalize off of our money, like to have our money growing in other areas. We kind of got caught up in the moment of the money. So what then happened is that he got another gig, but it was substantially lower. And this is a whole nother conversation about how people get paid in the industry. That's another conversation for me. I want to connect with some other wives so we can, anyway. So times got really tough, right? I'm in a smaller house with these two little kids. My husband is out doing the best that he can with this tour that he was on. And our relationship was really strained. It was really, really getting strained. I'm in a whole nother state. At this point in time, I don't like asking for help. And I just remember the days being so long and hard. You know, I remember, y'all, we didn't have a sofa at one point in time. Now, part of this is my fault because when we moved, I got rid of a whole bunch of stuff because I'm like, we gonna come down here and get new furniture, do this, do this, do this, do this. Oh, child, when I say we ain't have a sofa, we did not have a sofa for I don't know how long. We didn't have a garage, so Joe had to park his motorcycle in our kitchen. I kid y'all not. Like, it was crazy. It got really hard. It got really hard. And because Joe was on the road, and at this point he was touring, was he doing international? I don't know, but he was just hella busy. And even when he's on the road, like, I attempt to keep home, you know what I'm saying? Let him do his thing. When he gets a free time, call me. So it got really tough. And once again, I'm in this headspace where I'm like, you know, if I were to be focused on my career and this and that, then stuff would be different. And you know, see, this is why, like, I started going into that mode, which is really crazy, again, because if I were to have been more accepting of my role, I could have figured out more things to do at that time to actually create income that went in accordance with how my life was. But I was so against my role. But it's like, but you don't have a choice because you are a stay-at-home mom, so you have to embrace it. But I didn't want to. And one night, it just felt so heavy. The weight was just so heavy on me. I cried often, not in front of my kids, but this particular night I went into my bathroom, and I literally had to drop to my knees. I literally had to drop to my knees, and I just started crying. I remember it like it was yesterday. I just started crying, and I was like, God, I need you. You know, like, I can't even get up. You ever had that weight on you? It's so heavy. It's like you can't breathe. Like, not you can't get a breath out, but the air that you're breathing feels so thick that it's not even like quenching your lungs with the oxygen. It's just, so I was just like, God, I can't get up. I need you now. And I don't even need you to remove my problems, but I do need you to remove the physical, mental, and emotional weight of my problems. I need you to remove it, because I can't carry it like this. I can't. And all of a sudden, Joshua 1:9 came to me. And I married a PK, a preacher's kid. But I don't proclaim to know all these scriptures and all of this stuff. You know, I'm not the girl who knows all of the Bible. So when this scripture came to me, I was like, Joshua 1:9. And when I looked at it, it said, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And it was like the actual weight, it felt like it lifted me. It felt like the weight lifted me, so much so that the lifting of the weight kind of pulled me up off of my knees. Having a good cry will help you to be able to kind of get yourself together. So I looked at myself and I was like, okay, God, all right, okay. Now, what I didn't know was that the journey it's a continuous thing. I didn't know that the journey would still be happening, and that I would really be going through these different phases as I was. But it was at that moment that I learned I need to surrender. I surrendered. That was my first real surrender. That was the first time that I guess you would say I demanded that God show up for me. So I had to surrender. I had to surrender myself. And the process of surrendering, and I'll go into deeper stuff on at another time for each one of the areas I'm going to name. But the process of surrendering for me became a big physical one. I ended up challenging myself to 28 days of yoga, which I documented on my YouTube page. This will be on YouTube too. And so it really forced me to learn how to surrender to life, surrender to myself, surrender to my breath, surrender to the fact that there's only but so much I can control, surrender to the fact that things might be different than what I thought. So, surrender to my marriage, surrender to my children, there was so much in this surrender phase, right? Well, after I went through the surrender phase, then I realized that in order for me to surrender and not still be bitter, still be in a more negative than positive space, to still to want to push forward, I had to, my aunt, she made a song actually, and it's called Find the Good and Praise It. So whenever I would feel bad, or whenever I would find myself really going into a low place, I'm like, wait, give me something. What can I be grateful for? What can I be grateful for? Okay, I woke up. Okay, my kids are healthy. Okay, we listen, we done went through no cable, no electricity. No, one day our cable and our electricity and water all shut off at the same time, the same day. Lord have mercy. Down here in the South, you can go, well, at least where we were, you could go and turn the water back on anyway, whatever. So even in those real low moments, I mean, there were times where my husband's parents, like when they made a run to, like Sam's Club or BJ's, they would call and be like, do y'all need anything? And I would damn near run down a grocery list, because it really got to a low point. It really did. Shit just was not, stuff just was whatever. If you're open to gratitude, you will always find something to be grateful for. Always. So that sustained me. And helped me to stay in a space of surrender. And as I was expressing this gratitude, I said, okay, well, if I'm going to be thankful for what I have, and if I'm surrendering to what is, then that also means that I need to be kinder to myself. I need to be kinder in my processing. If I'm going to work to change my situation, because remember, Carrie, you asked God to remove the feeling of your problems. You got to take care of your problems. So if I'm going to be able to do that, I got to be able to take inventory of the situation. I do need to see things, but I can't do it with a judgy perspective. And so that goes into the third area, which was showing myself compassion and empathy. So that was a process, and there were different things that I had to do in order to express empathy and compassion to myself. One of the things that I had to, that expressing that empathy and compassion then allowed me to do, or forced me to do rather, was going to the next thing, which was grieving. It's kind of like when you are seeing someone go through something that's hurting them, if they lost somebody or if something happened in their life, and if you are able to have compassion and empathize, then you can kind of, at least me, I can kind of feel some of what they're feeling, even if I don't feel at the same magnitude, but you kind of get that sense, right? So there were certain things that I had to let go of. I had to deal with the fact that I no longer was going to be this or have that, or it wasn't going to look the way I wanted it to look. And so I had to let the sadness of it come out so that I could get beyond it. So the grieving point was, it was tough. It was tough. And the things before, the empathy, the compassion, the surrendering, the gratitude, helped to sustain me through that part of the process. After grieving, to make sure that I did not get upset with myself for what I was grieving over, right? Because when we lose stuff, after you're sad about it, you might get mad about it, right? And so to prevent me from going into a space of being upset with myself, then I had to allow myself grace. I had to tell myself, hold on now, this is where you are now, and maybe things are not how you thought they should be, but you're here now and you're showing up. You're ready. You want to do the work. You're willing to do the work. You're doing the work. You have got to give yourself grace for where you are. You've got to give yourself grace for all that's happened. You have to give yourself that grace. What I realized when I was going through that phase was that although I had grieved those things, or I went through my grieving process, I didn't, and I gave myself grace. I had to seal that with forgiveness. I had to tell myself that I forgave myself for maybe not always making the best decision. I had to tell myself I forgive myself for holding myself to certain standards or expectations, or for not planning certain things properly, or whatever it was. I had to tell myself that I forgave myself. So forgiveness was the next area that I entered into. So after the forgiveness, I was like, okay, so I forgave myself. So now what I can do, now what I need to do is I need to what are they playing? Now that I went into this place of forgiveness, I said, okay, I have to really accept all of this. Like true acceptance. Stop going back down the same roads. Just totally accept where you are. Totally accept what you're doing. Just accept it. Because again, the only way you're going to be able to change it is if you got it locked in. All right, this is what it is. I accept it. Now I can move forward. So true acceptance was the next phase that I went through. And at that point in time, I realized, okay, now if I really want to get out of my situation, if I want to turn this around, then I need support. I need help. And if I need help, then I need to be comfortable not only with asking for help, but also with receiving help. And this is from asking for help with, my kids, to asking for help with a situation, with figuring out what parts of what I was doing I could have someone else do. Like just so many different levels of asking for help. And I started to do that. In fact, I have two cousins, and at that time we had just formed what we called a think tank on Marco Polo. This is an app where we were connecting, and they really became my, I guess it was like a cousin sister circle. And it was cool because my older cousin, she's already a licensed therapist, a counselor, therapist. She a therapist? I think so. So it was almost like it became my therapy session, if you will. And that's when a lot of the internal work for me started to get done. Anyway, I got comfortable with asking for help. But then I also learned that I needed to work equally as hard at receiving help that I didn't ask for, because people would offer themselves and I would easily be like, nah, I'm good. No, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need the help. I'm good. So after that, it went to, so that was the next phase. The next phase was asking for and receiving help. And then after that, it was like, okay, Now it's game plan time. Now you got through a lot of the emotional and mental stuff. You have, and all of this, I might add, is in reference to me coming to grips with being a stay-at-home mom and being proud of it and claiming it, me being okay with my husband being on the road, me accepting that I lived in North Carolina for real, and not just, temporarily right now, like really starting to embrace that. Now it was like, okay, you really need to start to come up with a plan and activate. You need to activate your game plan of how you are going to lean into these roles. How are you going to be the best version of these roles you can be and still be all you need to be for you? Because what I also was very clear of was that I had to keep making space for me, which is why I even came up with the business Mom Away Retreats, which is about teaching moms, giving moms a space to start nurturing themselves. I wasn't ready to launch. I thought I was a bunch of times, but I wasn't, because I was in certain stages that, in my opinion, would not have allowed me to really present this business properly. But I did know that the essence and the purpose of the business still stood. So again, it forced me to say, okay, you have to make sure that you are included in this plan, and you got to activate it. You got to make it happen. At that point, I had been so far removed from doing anything, like for myself, that was difficult. It was difficult for me to focus on that. It was difficult for me to come up with. It was difficult. I was second guessing myself. Even with my kids, I would second guess my decisions, and it was just weird. I was like, where did my confidence go? I was like, oh shoot, where did my confidence go? And that was also when I realized that there were areas about being a stay-at-home mom specifically that I didn't think about at all. Listen, figuring out having your kids with you all day, especially since I'm homeschooling, having your kids with you all the time and being more isolated than anything, that could be real. That's like, I didn't prep for that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even prep for, even if I was working, I didn't prep for, hey, you have 4 children now and a husband. They need to eat every day, and they need to eat multiple times a day. In fact, that's why I went back to school and got my coaching certificate, my health coaching certification, because I wanted to learn how to make decisions for my family and their health. Because at the end of the day, as the wife, as the mom, what your family eat, well, what my family eats overall is, I lead that charge. So again, these are things that I never stopped to think about. And even though my mom cooked her butt off, but I never really stopped to be like, dang, I'm gonna have to figure out what people want to eat every day, just like she does. Like, she always comes home trying to figure out what to cook for us for dinner. I'm gonna have to do that for the 2 to 4 kids that I want and for my husband. I didn't stop to do that. I didn't think that way. So anyway, I felt like I was rusty. I felt like I was rusty with activating stuff and making stuff happen. And when I started to do work on that, I realized that it wasn't as much the activate, like I started to activate stuff, but what was happening was I was not completing things. And I was getting real caught up and lost in life and the need for perfection and the need for things to look good. Because remember, I'm still dealing with the notion that I should be successful. It should be impressive. It should be all of this stuff. So it made me go into this space where the moment that I'm thinking of something, can quickly start to second guess myself, or I will get to a point and I'll be like, all right, I'll put that over there because, you know, I need to think about it. I need to work on it. I need to do whatever the case may be. So I was like, this is not going to work. Like, this is driving me insane. This is not going to work. I'm looking around, time is passing, things are happening, and I'm having these up and down moments. And a lot of it was attached to the fact that I didn't feel this sense of accomplishment. And so I told myself, I was like, listen, you can have accomplishments through a lot of stuff, you know, getting through laundry. Listen, hello, getting through a bunch of laundry. That's an accomplishment. Like, some people might not understand that, but it's been times where I've wanted to cry over laundry. In fact, one of my old bosses, that's what she told me. She was like, when her husband traveled, she had 2 little kids, and she said that she cried so much when she was doing laundry. And now I get it. I didn't get it when she told me I was pregnant with my first then, but I totally get it. So if I focus on completing it, then I get that feeling of accomplishment. But if I'm so focused on it being perfect to the point where it intimidates me from completing it, then I not only do I not get that feeling of accomplishment, but I feel completely disappointed in myself and completely let down. And I realized that that was starting to happen, like, across the board, because I did still have, it was happening to me across the board. So I started last year, the year before last, because I do my affirmations, and I started focusing on completion, not perfection. Completion, not perfection. And I got to tell you, I have sat in that for almost 2 years now, because I could not kick this perfection thing. I had to really dive into what is that. And I won't go deep into that now because this is getting longer, but I had to really dive into, like, what is this whole perfection thing about? Long story short, I realized that I needed to go ahead and force myself to complete things, even if it wasn't perfect. So that's why I constantly repeat stuff to help give myself the push. So Ty Lopez says 80% is good enough. You know, a lot of people have been saying, build the plane while you're flying it. Like, all of those things, I say to myself, completion, not perfection, completion, not perfection, completion, not perfection. And so that is where I am now, which is also why I'm doing what I'm doing, because this has been the challenge that I've given myself, is put your content out, share. You've wanted to do this for so long. Now's the time for you to do it and be consistent. You've done it many times. You have launched stuff many times, and you didn't complete it, and you judged yourself, and you put yourself in this hole, and you but we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing any of that anymore. We're going to go through that whole list that I already named, and now we're going to focus on completing stuff and not worrying about it being perfect. So that's been my 5-year process, if you will. I can say that if I were to have known of other people, or just been in a space where I was having more conversations surrounding these things earlier on, then, you know, maybe things would have been different, or I would have made certain changes sooner. I don't know. But what I do know is the fact that I went through this process, I have to share it, because maybe it will help somebody else before they go down this road, or if they're in this road, to encourage you to go through. You can use go through these phases, or, you know, document your own thing. But the biggest thing that I think helps is the ability to really tap in to you and what you're experiencing, and to be able to dissect it without all of the judgment, to be able to look at things that are happening in your life and put it somewhere, find the value out of it and put it somewhere, and then go to the, like, keep it moving. So I believe that is what, qualifies me, if you will, to share with other moms, other stay-at-home moms who might be going through something similar in their journey. See, I'm judging myself right now. Like, I don't know if I should have made, this is 44 minutes. I don't know if I should have made this shorter. Is this too long? I don't know. This is what I would do. I would keep this video in the cut and not post it because it's too long. So anyway, that's a deeper dive into my journey, and I want to go deeper. I want to get specific on each one of these things. In fact, I think that I might turn it, I might just write about it and turn it into something, but I would love to go deeper into each one of these categories on another video. But my journey of surrender, gratitude, compassionate empathy, grieving, grace, forgiveness, true acceptance, asking for and receiving help, activation, completion and not perfection is what has brought me to this point. And what it also has helped me to do, this is the last thing that I'll say, is it's helped me to support other people who might be going through their journey, and it helps me to understand people better, which I think is a part of what saved my marriage, because I was going through my own journey. I think I was able to accept a lot and understand a lot with my husband and his journey. So I'll stop there. And if you made it through this whole video, thank you so much. I'm really attempting to stay out of my headspace right now. I didn't write this out. I had the points. I didn't write this out, so I didn't know how long this would be. So thank you for sticking it out. And if you, again, want to keep on this journey with me, do me a favor, wherever you're seeing this, like the video. Y'all already know that it helps with the algorithm. It helps to get the information in front of, or me sharing in front of more people. If there was anything that resonated, please feel free to leave a comment. It's always great to hear from other people on, if you could relate to something. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you're watching this somewhere else, you can go to my YouTube page and subscribe. I think that's it. I I thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to all that's in store along the way here. So you have a wonderful day or evening, depending on when you're watching this, and I will talk to you guys next time. All right, take care. Bye.